last week with Shields versus Maia as the main event. We're also going to cover The Ultimate Fighter Episode 6, as well as preview the UFC 166 fight card coming up this Saturday. Cain Velasquez versus Junior Dos Santos 3. All of that because you have stepped here inside the cage. What is going on, everybody out there listening? This is The Cage. You've stepped inside of it, and you are with me, your host for the next hour, Joe Sumo. And today I've brought with me a regular here on the show, a gentleman who knows quite a bit about mixed martial arts. Found himself based out in Las Vegas doing it big. My boy, LayzieTheSavage. What's going on, brother?
What up?
That is my ninja right there, holding it down for MiddleEasy.com and Fight Hub TV. If you want to catch him out there, he's on Twitter at LayzieTheSavage. And what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Just trying to survive another day. Not much is going on, really.
Well, that's not true, because you and I were just talking before I put you on air, and just to get things started quick and fast here on the show, where we do nothing but mixed martial arts, we're going to talk about possible matchups coming up. Apparently, you know a little something that a lot of the MMA community doesn't know too much about, but apparently something's in the works. What's going on, brother? Tell me something about this.
Well, we don't know. Nothing is officially in the works, but I know what you're talking about. Everybody's talking about Nick Diaz versus Michael Bisping at 185 pounds. And I talked to Nick a couple weeks back when he was in Vegas, and I asked him, because I had been tapping into his brain trying to see, what would bring him back and what wouldn't. And, there was fans online calling they wanted to see Damian Maia versus Nick Diaz. And I brought up that to Nick, and Nick was like, nobody wants to see that fight. And he was right. No one's going to pay top dollar to see that fight. But so I thought about it for a little bit, and I was like, what's a good fight that's going to be a marquee fight that's going to draw a lot of fans? And at 85 pounds, 185 pounds, I can't think of anybody who I'd rather see fight than Nick Diaz versus Michael Bisping. These guys really don't even have to run their mouths about each other in order for this fight to be entertaining, because a lot of people are like, oh, the trash talk's going to be epic. Even if these guys don't say a word, I think stylistically the matchup inside the cage would make for an awesome fight. And Nick wants a big marquee fight. I think if this fight happens over in the UK, even if it happens in Vegas, it's still a huge fight. But if he does it over in the UK and it's on pay-per-view, I think that would be huge. The only thing is, I don't know how well they do with pay-per-views over in the UK, with the time difference and everything like that.
Right.
So maybe they do it in Vegas. Like I said, either way, it's stylistically, it makes for a really good fight. So I asked Nick, and Nick said, yeah, I asked him, I said, what do you think about a potential fight with Bisping at 185 pounds? And he said, I like it. He's like, I'm not sure how big of a draw it would be, though. And that's when I explained to him, I was like, the UK fan base is huge. Bisping's a huge star. And, Bisping's been lined up for a title shot for a while. Few setbacks have been the only reason, with losses to some of the best, have been the only thing keeping him from getting a title shot. But I think that would be a shortcut for Nick, too, because I know Nick wants to fight 185 pounds. He's interested in fighting there. And in my opinion, that's a shortcut to the title.
Certainly. It's certainly going to put him in contention if he can beat somebody like Michael Bisping, who's always been a top 5 contender at the 185-pound weight class. But I want to jump back to something for a second. You're saying stylistically this makes a good fight. And I'm a Nick Diaz fan as much as the next guy. But God, it scares me to have him go against a guy like Michael Bisping, who makes a living fighting people on a bicycle via Carlos Condit style against Nick Diaz, kind of constantly backpedaling, picking your shots and running away, picking your shots and running away. Bisping is not the type of guy that's going to sit there and get into a slugfest with Nick Diaz, which is the type of thing he would love to get into. Scares me a little bit stylistically more than something that I earned to see, you know?
Well, here's where I can I'm tweeting out right now, let people know they should listen into this right now. But you go back to that Michael Bisping Jorge Rivera fight. You remember that?
Yes, good fight.
A lot of animosity, a lot of build up to that fight. Jorge got under Mike's skin. He got under his skin visibly well, and Mike kind of lost his cool. And Mike's been known to do that. And I think that there's no doubt in my mind that Nick's not going to bring that out of Mike either. And I don't think Mike's going to be on his bike at all. I think Mike's a savage, to be honest. I think Mike's a warrior.
Oh, definitely.
And I really enjoyed his fight against Jason Miller, and his fight against,
Alan Belcher.
Rivera, and the fight against Belcher. I mean, you got to give this guy props. He's a savage. So I don't think he's going to be on his bike. I don't think Mike is scared. I don't think Nick is scared. And I think both these guys are going to come in with the mentality thinking that this guy's trying to take food off my table. And when that mentality switches, I know for Nick, I don't know for Mike personally, but you're hated. He's your enemy. It doesn't matter. Nick goes into kill mode. And I'm pretty sure Bisping's going to do the same thing. And, Carlos Condit wasn't known for that. He doesn't get drawn into, emotional, even during the Nick Diaz weigh-in, stare down, all the press conference stuff, Carlos never lost his cool. He never got emotional. He just kind of sat back and just, did that kind of thing. But look at the fighters that Nick has drawn in, that kind of thing. When it's an actual fight and they're in there trying to finish each other, it makes for an exciting fight. I think that's what we're going to see if Nick Diaz and Michael Bisping end up matching up.
It's certainly an intriguing idea, and it's one fight that I would totally be into. I'm a fan of both fighters. I enjoy Michael Bisping throughout his career. Maybe not personality-wise, but he is an entertaining fighter.
How could you not like Michael Bisping personality-wise?
I'll give you one example and one example only, and you'll know exactly what I mean. His fight against Matt Hamill, which he easily lost, but wins the decision because it's overseas, and then has the audacity when being interviewed to act like he totally believes he won that fight. When
I wasn't in the cage that night. I don't know how he felt. I know sometimes fighters feel like they won the fight, and judges see it another way. You never know. It's watching it on TV. Here's a perfect example. I worked the Juan Manuel Marquez versus Timothy Bradley fight the other night. I thought Juan Manuel won the fight. I was sitting, in the media section up pretty high. I didn't have a judge's view, but even one of the judges scored it for Juan Man. So it's like these fights are tough to score, especially MMA when you're going off a 10-round boxing. Boxing's hard enough to score based on a system that was designed for boxing.
Okay. But Lazy,
10 times harder to score a fight in MMA based on a boxing score credential. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Let me ask you something. Can I ask you something?
Yeah, sure.
Who won that fight, Matt Hamill or Michael Bisping? Your honest decision. What do you think?
I believe that Matt Hamill won that fight.
That's all I wanted to hear. Okay? A lot of people thought that. And out of everything throughout Michael Bisping's career, that one thing lingers behind me: the stealing of an honest victory from a deaf guy. is never a good thing to do. So since then, I have a hard time rooting for Michael Bisping.
But dude, Jesus Christ! Speaking of Matt Hamill, did you see how awful he looked in his last fight? I don't know if he went into the fight injured, if his, I don't know. But anyway, Mike Bisping, you can't hold that against him. He's gone on since then. That was a very, very long time ago, early in his career.
It's definitely.
I don't hold grudges. I believe we all live and learn from our mistakes.
Certainly.
If that wasn't the case, I would still be hated for the whole incident with Mayhem that I was into. So people will learn to forgive and forget and appreciate what you do. And
certainly.
And shit, in the MMA game, according to most of these fans, you're only as good as your last fight. So if that's the case for Michael Bisping, he's in a good seat. And that's the thing. But you don't like him, so you don't like him. It's not that you don't care about him, because if you didn't care about him, that would be a bad thing.
Right.
Michael Bisping, you either love him or you hate him. And in MMA, if you want to be a big draw and you want to sell tickets, that's exactly what you need to be. Nick Diaz has cult following fans, or people that absolutely can't stand him. There's really no in between with Nick,
Right.
And that's why these guys are enigmas in the sport, and they're so charismatic. I mean, Mike's very charismatic. Nick's sort of like his own,
interesting
his own identity. But,
Nick Diaz is an enigma wrapped inside of a puzzle. Okay.
There you go. I mean, but that's part of the brilliance behind him. So,
certainly. No, I with all that said and done, I do.
A primetime show, if you can get Nick on camera, and even if you don't get Nick, if you get Nick eluding the cameras, people are still going to be like, "What the fuck is going on?" But they're only going to wonder that much more.
Right.
So, but he will show up for shit. When he's got something to say, Nick will say it. But what Nick doesn't like is being drawn into saying something.
Right.
Don't bait him saying something when he's got something to say, he'll say it. But, all these camera crews come in and they try and sit him down and get him to say shit because they ask him these questions that, are, you can manipulate somebody in a certain way and get them to answer questions that they normally wouldn't answer in certain situations. It's a whole psychological game when you're interviewing somebody. It's not just, I have a list of questions for you. What do you think? That's not the way they do that for TV. So he hates that. He feels like he's being drawn into saying stuff that he doesn't want to say. So, but at the same time, to see them training for each other, a primetime series show or a countdown, something like that, it would have to be primetime. But and if that was the case, I'd say have the fight in Vegas, because people will travel all over the world to come to Vegas. But man, how much does that fight excite you?
I love it.
That's a entertaining fight.
I would want to see it. If Nick Diaz were to jump to 185, there are a few guys that I'd really want to see him in the cage with, but one of those guys on that list is definitely Michael Bisping. He is a fighter.
He's down for whoever at 185.
Regardless, I'm not saying he's not down. I'm just saying for me personally as a fan, seeing him jump up at 185, there's certain guys that I don't want to see him fight against, and there's certain guys I do. And on that short list of guys I do, Michael Bisping is on there. I think that would make for a very interesting fight. Two guys that like to scrap, different styles, but they do scrap. Both awesome personalities. I think it's a good idea. I just hope that Dana White is listening to the fans like he does, and he works his ass off to make this fight happen. I do want to jump off to another subject, though, unless you have something else to say about that.
No, he did. Dana just did tweet that he loved the idea of the fight. So it could be in the match. It could be in the works.
There you go. All right. So, with that being said, I want to jump over to a training partner and friend of Nick Diaz, Jake Shields, headlining the UFC Fight Night last Wednesday against Damian Maia. Very interesting fight card. Tons of interesting fights on there. And once again, like most of these Fight Night cards, it doesn't disappoint. It's it's intense how or interesting how all these Wednesday night cards tend to just be packed with some relevant names, but nobody well known to the casual fan, and yet these cards tend to really kind of outperform these pay-per-view cards with entertaining matchups and just gritty fights. And I want to take a second and go over this card with you real quick, starting with the Asuncao versus Dillashaw fight. Very entertaining fight. Both guys going back and forth. You got to see a lot of Dillashaw scrappiness in the first round, and then you see Asuncao's resilience in the second and third to come out and win the decision. What do you think about the fight, the fighters, and where it puts them at this point?
Dillashaw's ready. I mean, that kid, he's definitely top 10 in his weight class, and Asuncao is a savage too. Yeah, obviously, you saw that, but I still don't think he'd beat Dodson.
Yeah, that'd be a hard fight. Dodson's up there. To say, TJ Dillashaw's loss to Asuncao is the first loss for Alpha Male under the tutelage of Dwayne Bang Ludwig, just to let you know.
Yeah, that's all bad, huh?
I believe before that they were like 12-0 or somewhere up there. And
yeah, so did you agree with the decision?
I have no issue with it, to be honest. I easily gave the first round to TJ Dillashaw. I thought he looked like the aggressive fighter. He landed some good shots that I believe even stunned Rafael, and I believe he got his back at one point. But in the second and third round, it looked to me like Rafael Asuncao was controlling the fight, and I just had no issue with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, if Asuncao, I don't even know who I would see, who I'd want to see him fight next after that, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Tim Elliott's wrapped up, right? Tim Elliott's got a fight coming up?
I believe so.
I'm going to look it up. Hold on. But anyway, we can move on. That fight, it was a good fight. I still think Dillashaw is still up there.
Yeah. The thing is, you can't take anything away from him for this loss. I mean, TJ Dillashaw lost a hard-fought battle against a guy who's really deserves to be ranked in the top 4 in that division as well. Rafael Asuncao is moving up the ladder quickly, so I wouldn't take anything away from Dillashaw. I think his next fight still needs to be against a ranked opponent, somebody in the top 7 or 8. And get him right back in the thick of things. But I want to jump over to the next fight on the card, a very controversial one, and I'll get to the reasons why on that one. Rousimar Palhares versus Mike Pierce lasts less than a minute. Is Rousimar Palhares does what he's known to do in his victories, and he goes for the leg quickly, locks up a heel hook, and twists it until the referee literally has to pry him off like a pit bull holding on to whatever a pit bull would hold on to. This is not the first time that Palhares has not only won by a heel hook or ankle lock or a knee bar, but also not the first time that he's had to be pried off of a screaming opponent who has been tapping for their life. And because of this, Rousimar Palhares, even though he's the victor, has now been cut from the UFC and banned for life. What do you think about that decision?
Well, banned for life's a little extreme, but that fool is he's in there trying to end, dude, those are dangerous techniques he's in there pulling off. And if this was a one-time thing, you go back to the Babalu choke with Steve Heath. You remember that, where he held that?
Yeah.
He got banned for the UFC. I didn't think that was as bad. He's putting him to sleep. Babalu's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, been training since Jaws was a goldfish. He knew what he was doing. He knew that he wasn't going to seriously hurt him. He was just going to make sure that he took a little nap. I didn't mind that so much. the heel hooks and the leg locks, holding those when fighters are screaming in pain, you're trying to end someone's career with that. So, yeah, he needs to be taught a lesson. He should have been cut. He definitely didn't deserve the submission of the night bonus. But there's a big argument on Middle Easy. A lot of the readers were saying that the submission was only held 1-point-something seconds longer than the ref, took, because I guess the ref's supposed to grab you. Now, if you go back and watch the replay, I don't know what the ref was jumping on. He was trying to unlock the leg. No, he should have put his hands on Paul Harris and said stop. But he was trying to unlock he dove on top of the legs and tried to and Paul Harris is cranking, so.
Yeah, it was a strange position. It was a strange position.
Look what happened with Fabricio Verdum and Big Nog. There's a sign of respect there, but Fabricio even said that if he would have went belly down on anyone else, that he would have made the ref pull him off. But because he went belly down armbar on Big Nogueira, who he has much respect for and is a legend in the sport, and he knows is an honest person, he let go as soon as Nogueira screamed. And you saw Nogueira didn't get up, didn't contest it. Same shit with Anthony Pettis and Benson Henderson. Pettis knew that Ben wasn't going to he didn't have to hurt him, and he did. Right. He hurt him pretty bad already,
Right.
But, so.
But hold on. Here's the difference between those and this. Those were one-time instances. Rousimar Palhares has been known to hold on to submissions longer than necessary, also injuring people drastically in the process. This isn't
I heard about him doing it in the gym too, to be honest.
I've heard the same thing. I heard that but I know that he routinely hurts guys in the gym. And I don't know what it is about him personally, what demons he might be fighting that makes him think he has to do this. I mean, let's be honest. The sport is fighting. It's kill or be killed, not seriously, but you want to win the fight. But at a point, there has to be a level of respect for your opponent and the sport that when a submission is called, a guy taps, or let's just say in the instance where he's fighting Mike Pierce, the guy is screaming and tapping. The guy's hurt. The guy's done. You let go of the submission. And a guy like Rousimar Palhares, who's been grappling for so long, knows when a guy is done. It's not like this is his first time pulling off a heel hook and just being so excited about it and being so into the moment that he forgot what was going on around him. This is not a new position for him to be in. He is a seasoned veteran both in the cage and in jiu-jitsu, and he should know when it's time to let go of a submission. I'm not in any way, shape, or form feeling bad for him. He's had opportunities time and time again, and he's proven himself unable to control his emotions in the cage. Let's go on.
Lifetime ban's a little extreme.
Yeah,
even though Bjorn said he doesn't want to see him in Bellator, I think it'd be stupid not to pick him up, even unless he blows through your middleweight division, heel hooking everybody, and then finishes his contract.
Right, but let's also keep in mind that Dana White has also been known to bring guys back after getting rid of them.
I'd love to see Paul Daly come back. To be honest, I think Paul will never make that mistake again, and I think he'd be an exciting division or addition to that division, and he's always entertaining. And his grappling skills have been improving, and he's becoming more of an all-around threat. And I think he learned his lesson. So,
yeah,
like I said, you live and you learn, man.
I like Semtex. I wouldn't mind seeing him back in the UFC. He's always been a favorite of mine. Another one of those cocky, European guys. A la Michael Bisping, but I like his style. He's got heavy hands. He's fun to watch fight. Let's jump on and keep going on through this card. We have Fabio Maldonado versus Joey Beltran. Really, what's there to say about this fight? It kind of is what I thought it was going to be. I don't know if you have any opinions on it.
They are who we thought they were. Or I don't know how that commercial goes. I don't know.
Right.
But, I don't know. The fight was cool. A lot of clinching. I know Maldonado wanted to fight. He even turned a little Anderson Silva there for a second, which I got a kick out of because at least, it was showing me that he wanted to fight, man. Like, come on, dude, fight me. Like, that. And, usually Joey's down for the, balls to the wall scrap. But that's what happens in these guys' career, man. They can't afford to lose, and they do whatever they take to win so that they can get that win bonus and pay those bills. Because, hey, being exciting, you might get fight of the night, but you're competing. It's a lot easier to get your win bonus by just making sure you get out of there and get out of there healthy so you can fight 3 times a year.
Yeah. Joey Beltran was cut, brought back for this fight. Does he get cut again?
No. No, you keep him around still. People know the name. People know what he's capable of. No, I wouldn't cut him.
Next fight on the card, Thiago Silva versus Matt Hamill. We vaguely touched on it earlier. Hamill just not looking the same anymore. It's weird to say that somebody's maybe on the downside of their career so early, but Matt Hamill just has not looked good over the past couple of years, and tonight was no different. Injury or not, he just did not look like the Matt Hamill of old. And Thiago Silva is not an impressive fighter these days either. He missed weight coming into this fight, obviously not in shape, yet he was still able to get the decisive victory. Any thoughts about this one?
Dude, I truly believe that there must have been something wrong with Thiago Silva. Dude, he showed he was way overweight, bro. But that looks like maybe his knee was bothering him, maybe he had a foot injury. Like, you can't run to lose that weight because didn't it look like that to you? Like, he was heavy in the midsection from he not being able to do cardio. I don't know what happened in the camp, but usually he looks good, and I've never seen him look like that. So I think that I'm guessing there had to have been something wrong, but I don't know. If he really just showed up out of shape for a fight, maybe he was going, what was that, Damon Wayne style from The Great White Knight.
Nice. Good reference. I like it.
I don't know. And I'm surprised Thiago didn't get him out of there, to be honest. But Hamill's coach, his old coach, didn't want to coach him anymore. And maybe this is why. Maybe he didn't want to be a part of, Hamill not putting in the work or I don't know what it is, but he did not look good.
Does Thiago Silva deserve anything after this fight, like a big matchup, or do you just feel it's another notch under the belt?
No, he needs a bigger matchup to
motivate him.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. Let's take a look at the
What did he end up weighing in at? Do you remember?
I'm not 100% sure. I want to say he was 5 pounds or 4 pounds overweight. Something abnormally bigger than the usual half a pound or pound over.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt if he was injured or sick or something. I don't know, but I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe Damon did it. I don't know.
Let's take a look at this co-main event for the night. This was the fight I was probably most intrigued in outside of Shields versus Maia and the grappling match to pursue between them two. We had Stun Gun Kim versus Eric Silva. Eric Silva, one of those young guys who everybody's talking about, tons of talent, super just interesting fighter all around in mixed martial arts. One of those guys who you tell is trained in every facet. Don Young Kim, the Stun Gun, we all know what he likes to do. He wants to get in there, he wants to get a hold of you, get you to the ground, and control you for 3 rounds. What ensued was a real scrap. Eric Silva was taken down early in the first round, kind of controlled, pretty much a decisive first-round victory for Kim. And then the second round, Silva coming out with just a fire under his ass, starts landing nice shots, really stuns Kim. I mean, puts Kim in a bad position. And then what would you know? The overhand knocks Eric Silva out, and Stun Gun gets a victory in impressive fashion against a guy who I think everybody had beating him decisively in this fight. Is Stun Gun legit? I mean, is this guy a real contender, or is just a flash in the pan knockout here?
I want to see a rematch between those two, to be honest. After that fight was over, I was like, let's see it again. But no, Stun Gun is the real deal. I mean, his losses to Carlos Condit, he did beat Nate Diaz. He controlled him for 3 rounds. He's a tough kid. He's tough. And he's durable, as you can see. So he can withstand some punishment, some bad position, and keep himself in the fight. But, Eric Silva, he just got caught, man. He got caught slipping. But that's what happened. Eric Silva's still young. He'll bounce back, and he'll learn from this, hopefully. And, but I would like to see a rematch.
Yeah, I don't know if a rematch will happen now, but I do feel that this victory for Kim kind of solidifies him, I think, in a top 10 rankings at this point. You said his loss to Condit. Outside of that, and the injury, the early injury and the loss to Damian Maia, he is 7-1 with the one loss to Condit. And he's got victories over Nate Diaz, Amir Sadala, TJ Grant, Paulo Thiago, and now Eric Silva. I mean, he's taken out guys who are, potential contenders here. And it's not just with his wrestling anymore. It's obviously.
But keep in mind, Paulo Thiago is the only real 170-pounder in that weight class.
Right. He is probably decisively bigger than all those guys, except Eric Silva. Eric Silva's a big body, and not only was he able to control him for the first round, but he also was able to knock him out. So kudos to Kim. Now, I want to get into the main event. Your boy, Jake Shields, going up against Damian Maia and what everybody was touting as like the grappling match in 170. Both of these guys make no excuses about it. They are grapplers. They are jiu-jitsu practitioners, and that's what they're going to come out and do. And everybody said going up to the fight, if Jake Shields tried to go into Damian Maia's game, he's going to pay for it because Damian Maia is the best jiu-jitsu guy at 170. Well, lo and behold, Jake Shields was game. He goes in there and he is grappling like Jake Shields does, and he's able to go to the ground with Maia. And even in positions where Maia was looking like he could do something, Shields was able to reverse positions, get dominant spots.
Maia, that was sick. Did you see that sweep? I would watch that GIF like 10 times. He was reversing. Jake Shields brought his A game, and that was a tough fight, dude. Damian Maia was, the favorite going into that fight. And he was the favorite for a reason, because his jiu-jitsu skills and his grappling skills were believed to be far superior. And Jake Shields and his American jiu-jitsu reigned supreme, man. And I heard people complaining about the fight. Dude, if you're complaining about two of the best, you just don't appreciate this, going at it on the ground like that. You just don't appreciate what you're actually watching. Those are the Just Bleed fans, as they like to call them,
Right.
I was thoroughly entertained. I was thoroughly impressed with Jake Shields. Man, that guy has a will to win, and if you don't think that was a tough fight, ask Damian Maia. He'll tell you that was a tough fight, because he was, Jake Shields was all over him like a cheap suit, man, and he was not letting him get up. And at Maia, when Maia did have position in certain scenarios, Jake Shields was able to reverse it and maintain, dominance throughout the fight. And like I said, I was very entertained, and I had Jake Shields winning the fight 4-1.
Yeah, Jake Shields was able to out-grapple what everybody was considering the best grappler at 170 outside of GSP. And, Jake Shields, for all the flack he gets for being an unentertaining, boring fighter and not that successful in the cage since he made his welcome back to the UFC, the guy is gritty. He's able to get in there and take shots to do what he does best. And I think this fight was the perfect example of what Jake Shields is about. You can put him against the guy that you think is the better grappler, but Jake Shields is going to show you that if you want to get into a grappling match with me, I'm going to grind out this victory. And he did so against Damian Maia in impressive fashion. I think solidifying himself as probably the second best grappler in the 170-pound weight class outside of GSP.
Well, you said it, but even GSP wanted nothing to do with Jake Shields on the ground, so we don't know. We never saw that. I would love to see that maybe one day.
Yeah.
Jake's on the climb. And
he
that's
is.
A huge win for him.
I agree.
So, and yeah, his style may look gritty, and it may not be fan-pleasing to the hardcore, bleed fans or whatever, but Jake's a savage, and I was thoroughly impressed.
Who do you want to see him go against next?
I really haven't thought about it.
We'll get back to that one.
I really haven't thought about it. Yeah.
All right.
I don't know.
Let's jump over to the Ultimate Fighter. We're actually going to talk a little bit about that as well as UFC 166. We're going to take a quick break, but you are here.
There's Carlos Condit. I want to see that fight.
Jake Shields, Carlos Condit. That's actually not a bad idea. I like that.
Jake already beat him back in the day, I think. Way, way back in the day. I'm pretty sure of it.
You heard it there from LayzieTheSavage. Jake Shields, Carlos the Condit. Carlos the Condit. I'm losing my words. Jake Shields versus Carlos Condit. Let's make that one happen, Dana White. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're talking The Ultimate Fighter as well as UFC 166. We got LayzieTheSavage on the phone, on air with me, Joe Sumo, inside the cage.
Radio DePaul is
awesome,
engaging, ballin', an opportunity for me to voice my opinion.
Really cool, really laid back.
A big community of everything.
Radio DePaul is Chicago's college connection.
And then I brought her into Red Mango last week to try it out, and now she won't shut up about it. She wants to go there every day. I should be getting really annoyed with her by now, except the yogurt is so good.
On the berries, and then we can put like a layer.
With their wide variety of all-natural frozen yogurt, over 55 toppings to choose from, your Red Mango options are endless.
You can put on top too.
So stop by the Lincoln Park Red Mango at 844 West Armitage, just east of the Armitage Brown Line station. It probably won't be your last visit.
And then maybe we'll have...
What's going on? You are back inside the cage. Your host, Joe Sumo, and my co-host for the day, LayzieTheSavage from MiddleEasy.com and Fight Hub TV. We just got done talking UFC Fight Night, Shields versus Maia, as well as some other controversial things going on in the news, like Paul Harris getting cut and Nick Diaz possibly getting a shot against Michael Bisping at 185. But I now want to go ahead and talk about The Ultimate Fighter, the mixed martial arts reality show that the UFC has been doing for quite a while now. But this is the first season they've had women in the house competing for a spot in the UFC as well as men, and probably the most entertaining season they've done since, I would have to say, season 5 maybe, when it was BJ Penn coaching against Jens Pulver. This season, I'm sorry?
That was the best season ever.
That was a great season, no doubt. But do you not agree that this season has reinvigorated your interest in The Ultimate Fighter?
Format is still stale. I love the fact that the women, that's what's been that's what's been the key to me to watching this season. Not only Ronda, but just the female fighters. I'm a huge supporter of women's MMA. I always have been. For me, that's what made me watch this season. Let me tell you, if it was just the males again, I wouldn't have watched it.
It'd be less intriguing, that's for sure. The women have already stolen the show with The Ultimate Fighter. It seems like every time those girls step in the cage, it's a scrap. It's freaking feisty. You're going to see a whole multitude of techniques inside of the cage. They really are making the show. It's, for me, a fan of The Ultimate Fighter who has lost interest over the past few seasons. I've not missed an episode so far. It's intense. And outside of that, not even just the girls fighting, but even the coaches, Miesha Tate and Ronda Rousey are must-see TV, in my opinion. Yeah,
absolutely. Ronda thinks it was bringing the worst out of her, but Ronda's accomplishments that she's already accomplished will dwarf Tough. She has nothing to worry about. And for those that are turning their backs on Ronda, if they can't handle her at her most stressed out, or in the most vulnerable of situations, then they don't deserve for her to care one bit about them. And it's not bothering Ronda. I'm telling you that right now. She's loving life. She's out there filming the movie for Bulgaria while training, having training partners come out to Bulgaria to train with her, putting in the work, and her official camp doesn't even start yet. So she is not taking Miesha Tate lightly, and she is stoked for it. And you're right, these girls seem to always bring it. And that fight last week with Jessamine Duke and Raquel Pennington was sick.
I mean,
and
one of the gentlemen on the show said that it reminded him of that moment when Forrest Griffin fought Stephan Bonnar in the first Ultimate Fighter. And though I don't think the stakes were as high, I couldn't agree more on the actual show that these girls put on. It's insane. I mean, without sounding too vulgar, they were beating the heck out of each other. I mean, these two girls were going back and forth. It was beautiful. I was sitting there stunned watching what was unfolding on my computer screen.
Yeah, I mean, I spent the week with Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir over at Ronda's. I was in L.A. Hanging out and filming some stuff with them. And Jessamine Savage, dude. Jesus.
That's a tall glass of water.
What's that?
I said she's a tall drink of water. Is that the statement? Is that how you say it? Tall glass of water? What is it? She's tall. That's all I'm trying to say.
I'm not sure. I never knew that one. But yeah, she's tall, she's lengthy, and she knows how to use her reach. And, man, she's got some awesome knees. And I've been watching her on the mitts with Edmund Terverdian over there at Glendale Fighting Club where Ronda trains. And Edmund's been working on her hands and got her on the mitt. And, her and Marina are running. I mean, dude, doing like three training sessions a day. So even though she lost that fight and it was a close one, I'm excited to see who they pit her up against next. And I'm looking forward to it.
What about Rocky Pennington? I mean, obvious size disadvantage and reach disadvantage, and even in the first round, which I believe was easily Jessamine's first round victory, it seemed to me like there was just no quit in this girl, Rocky, and her ability to come back in the second round and then in the decisive third round. This girl's impressive. She's obviously willing to take shots to dish out her own, and she's going to keep coming forward and bringing the fight to him. Is she now up there as a possible favorite to win this thing?
I mean, she's tough, man. That chick was pretty gnarly. I wouldn't be surprised if she made it all the way. She did suffer a nice little cut, though, didn't she, at the end of that fight?
Yeah.
I'm wondering, and dude, that's the thing about that Tough House. You don't have 3 months in between fights. You don't have any healing prior. You get injured, you have to suck it up, man. You have to fight again. And that's what the Savage thing about tough is, but if you go out there and you have a war like you do with Jessamine Duke, man, you know you're not coming out of that fight 100% healthy.
Right.
There's no way. I mean, can you imagine just saying, I'm fine after a fight like that? I mean, she's got to be banged up. So the girls that go in there and fight and really try to avoid the fight and kind of use their martial arts to protect themselves, it's not going to make for entertaining fights, but those are the ones I think that have the best chance of going, all the way, or, your superior grapplers.
I agree. The ones that can sustain less damage usually are the ones better off as the show continues on and gets towards the later rounds. But with that being said, the cut I don't believe was that bad. She did have one. It was over her right eyebrow, which is not a good place to have a cut. Usually, if anything, you want it under the eye. But, she's obviously a gritty girl. She's going to be able to take shots. I don't think if that thing reopens, it's really going to affect her. She's proven that she can fight through adversity, I believe, after that fight against Jessamine Duke. And I now have Rocky right up there with now I'm forgetting names. The girl who beat
Jessica Rakuzi?
Yes.
Rakuzi?
Yes.
Jessica Rakuzi.
Yes.
Yeah, she's a savage too, man.
Yeah, she's awesome. And she's pretty too. And that's always a good thing. So
You would. You've always liked the older women too, Joey.
I'm sorry. It's just my thing.
Don't be sorry.
Hey, don't hate. Anyways, with that in mind, I now want to jump over to UFC 166 and huge card, mainly because this main event is going to be the ending of a trilogy between two of the best heavyweights ever in the UFC. Cain Velasquez defending his title against Junior Dos Santos. This is now the third fight between the two. The first going to Dos Santos with the knockout. The second going to Cain Velasquez and a dominant 5-round decision victory. And now they're going back at it for a third time. Really, you don't have to say much about it. The history between the two, could fill a book at this point. But the card itself is stacked from head to toe. And like usual, when I have a co-host on here, I like to talk fight cards and predict who's going to win. Usually, I end up the victor because I'm a genius when it comes to picking fights. So that's how I feel about that. So let's go right at it. I want to start off with the first fight on the card. Actually, you know what? No. Let's take a step back. I want to talk the Fox Sports prelims. I'm looking at these prelims. These fights could easily be on a pay-per-view card or be your top 4 fights on a UFC Fight Night card. George Sotiropoulos versus KJ Noons to start the Fox Sports prelims. I mean, come on. That's an awesome fight right there.
Yeah, what about it? What's wrong with it?
It's on the Fox Sports prelims. It's not even... I mean, that's a fight that could easily be your first fight on a pay-per-view card, or easily be like your third or co-main event on a Fight Night card. Instead, it's the first one on the prelims. It's crazy how stacked this card is what I'm trying to get at. But
okay. For a second there, I thought you were complaining about a good fight being free on TV.
No, for me, I love anything that's free, so I'm totally into it. But I'm just saying, like, that's how awesome this card is. But regardless, great fight, great way to start the prelims, at least the ones that are on Fox Sports. And I'm just going to go right at it. Both guys need a victory. Both of them haven't looked very good as of late. But with that being said, I'm going with KJ Noons on this one. I think KJ needs to prove himself a legitimate UFC fighter. He needs that victory, and I think he's going to come out with that traditional boxing style that he has. I think he's going to land some shots on George's chin, which has been proven not to be able to take a shot that well. I'm going to give KJ Noons the victory by first round KO.
Well, pretty bold prediction there, buddy, but I would have to agree with it. think Cagey's very talented. I think he is. Yeah, you're right. He should be up there on the card, but I'm not mad that they're putting him on Fox because they need to do the numbers on Fox, and I'm going to make sure I watch that one. So I'll be making sure to tune into Fox Sports. So props to the UFC for doing a nice job with the marketing and the branding. But yeah, I think KJ wins the fight. That's all I really have to say about it.
Good. That makes my job easier. Let's go off to the next fight. We have females on the prelim. Jessica Ai making her UFC debut against a fan favorite, Sarah Kaufman. I don't know too much about Jessica Ai. I've never seen her fight before. She is 10-1. 70% of those fights won by decision. Sarah Kaufman, on the other hand, 16-2. And 63% of her fights are won by KO/TKO. Sarah Kaufman, right now ranked number 2 in the women's division. She's as scrappy as they get. She's one of those girls that if you've never watched female fights, you want to watch a Sarah Kaufman fight. She's going to automatically draw your attention because she's going to scrap. The simple fact that I don't know much about Jessica Ai, even though her record is impressive, makes it hard for me to pick a girl who I know not much about. I'm going with Sarah Kaufman. She's going to win this fight by decision. It's going to be a scrap, and it's going to be another one of those female fights that draw the attention of the casual UFC fan.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I knew a ton about Jessica Ai as well. But I know Kaufman very well, and a vet like that, it's going to be tough to come in and beat a girl like Sarah Kaufman. So if Jessica's going to get it done, she needs to bring her A game. And if she does win, that's a huge victory, and you're going to have a new star on the rise.
Definitely agree. So the next one on our prelims, Nate Morcourt versus Hector Lombard. Both fantastic fighters. Both have had their ups and downs, especially since coming back to the UFC. What are you thinking right now about this fight?
Man, are these guys fighting for their jobs again?
It's starting to look that way.
It is, right? Okay. Dude, I'm excited for that fight. I think Hector might get him, but man, if Hector loses, is he not the biggest bust? You sign him from Bellator, and then he ends up coming over here and being a huge bust.
He's certainly up there. I mean, since his debut in the UFC, he's gone 1-2. I'm sorry, only winning one fight out of his last 3. It was Terumo Palhares by knockout. It was impressive, but outside of that, he's been beaten by Tim Boetsch, who's now a prelim fighter, and beaten by Yushin Okami.
I thought Hector Lombard won that fight, just to be honest. But go ahead.
It was definitely it could go either way, but he's lost 2 out of his last 3 is what I'm getting at. One to Yushin Okami, who's been cut by the UFC, also a guy I don't think he deserved to be cut, but that's another story. Definitely fighting for his career. On the other end, Nate Morcourt has lost his last 2 fights, including the title fight against Tarek Safadine in Strikeforce, and then as well as losing by knockout to Jake Ellenberger in his UFC debut. So it's definitely a reasonable statement to say that these guys could be fighting for their jobs. Who's winning? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, I think Hector Lombard wins the fight.
Knowing that Nate Marquardt's ability to take a good shot on the chin worries me. Hector Lombard, though not too impressive in his UFC career, his one win was by knockout against another guy built similar to Nate Marquardt with also taking shots to the chin problems. I'm going to go ahead and say Hector Lombard wins this fight, first round knockout.
No.
Let's go ahead and get to the last fight on the prelims. Tim Boetsch versus CB Dollaway. Another awesome fight. I mean, this is easily a fight that could be on a pay-per-view card or a co-main event on a UFC Fight Night card. CB Dollaway, having his ups and downs in the cage, but always an entertaining fighter. going against Tim Boetsch, who also, even though he's had his ups and downs, has been, scrappy as heck and also deserving of his ranking, at least at this point in his career, of number 9 in the 185 weight class. Any thoughts?
Don't really care about the fight too much, to be honest. I'll probably be doing something other than watching that fight. I don't really have any interest in that fight.
I think I have an idea of what you'll be doing, and it's all good.
That'll be that fight that I take that 10-minute break.
All right, since somebody has to give us a prediction on this one, I'm going to go ahead and be the guy. CB Dollaway, good fighter, not great. Tim Boetsch, same boat, except I think he's a little grittier. He's going to go ahead and grind out the victory. I see him winning by unanimous decision to end the prelims. Let's get to the main card. John Dodson versus Daryl Montague. Daryl Montague, another gentleman I don't know too much about. He is 13-2, and as I look at his record, he's only got one loss in his last 11 fights. I'm looking at the list of guys he's fighting. I don't know any of them. They've all been outside of the UFC, so this is his first UFC fight. John Dodson has proven himself as a perennial contender in their weight class. Without knowing much about Daryl, unless he comes out here and shows me something, I have yet to see John Dodson. Too much in the tank, too much talent, too feisty. I think he wins this fight, unanimous decision.
I know Daryl from the Tachi Palace fighting. He's 13-2, and he lost to Ian McCall. So he's tough, but I think this is just going to be an exciting fight. But I think Dodson's gonna take it, in my opinion. But with that being said, Daryl's on a 4-fight winning streak coming into this, and 3 out of the 4 fights have been finishes. He got a split decision over in Japan, fighting a Japanese fighter. Sometimes these things happen in MMA, in the famous words of Gus Johnson. But he's a tough kid. But like I said, Dodson should get the nod. I would go with Dodson, unanimous decision. I definitely don't think he's going to finish him.
Next on the card, Gabriel Gonzaga versus Sean Jordan. Both guys looking impressive in their last fight. Sean Jordan able to get the knockout of Pat Barry. Gabriel Gonzaga able to get the knockout of Dave Herman. Neither one really solidified as anything special in the division. But with that being said, whoever gets the victory in this fight moves up the rankings. You got any thoughts?
Yeah, this is my lock of the night. I would go with Gabriel Gonzaga by early submission. I think Gabe could even knock him out if he wanted to, but I see him tapping him out fairly quick. Like I said, that's my lock of the night. Gabriel Gonzaga by first-round submission.
I'm glad you said that's your lock of the night, because I'm totally disagreeing with you on this one. I'm saying Sean Jordan is going to come out, land one on that suspect chin of Gabe's, and he's going to drop him like a bad habit early in the first round. Sean Jordan by KO. Gabriel Gonzaga is not going to be able to take it. He's known to fold under pressure.
Suspect chin. Okay, let me tell you who this fool got knocked out by. Okay, he got knocked out by Fabricio Verdum, Shane Carwin, Junior Dos Santos, and Travis Brown. How are you going to call that fool's chin suspect getting knocked out by those guys? Those are like the hardest punchers in the heavyweight division.
You forgot to mention one name.
What?
He also got knocked out by Randy Couture, a guy who's not even a heavyweight.
Hold on. Do you remember? I was at that fight. Was that the fight I was at? Maybe not. I was at Lesnar versus. But I remember I was watching that fight. I might have thought I was there. Man, I must have been messed up. Anyway, that fool slammed him. Yeah, he didn't knock him out. He TKO'd him, and it was because he shattered his nose with his own kneecap because he lifted him up and spiked him down. It was sick, but no. This fool got knocked out cold by Shane Carwin, Junior Dos Santos, and Travis Brown only. I'm not mad at him for getting knocked out by those guys. In the heavyweight division, that's what happens when you come to fight. Those guys have all proven to go on to be, the top 5 heavyweights in the world. So, or in the top 5. So it's no, I'm not tripping. And he beat Ben Rothwell.
Okay. You're right. I'll take it back.
He knocked out Dave Herman.
Oh, let's all give him an award. Big deal.
Well,
Look I'll give you this. His chin is not suspect. You're right. It's the heavyweight division. It's easy to get knocked out in the heavyweight division. I'll take that back. But with that being said, I don't think he has enough up in that general area to withstand the shots that Sean Jordan can land. And also, how are you going against a guy whose nickname is the Savage?
The Savage. I felt guilty as soon as I realized it too. I was like, oh man. No. Here's the thing though. Not even going by that. I'm just kidding about that. I like Sean Jordan. He's an entertaining fighter. He's a tough kid too. Like no doubt about it that the kid's tough. But the loss against Chet Congo showed me something too. Yeah, he beat Mike Russo and he beat Pat Barry, and I was impressed with those. And if you can go back to his win over LeVar Johnston, he key-lock submissioned LeVar Johnston. That was pretty impressive. But if this fight hits the ground, it's no doubt in my mind that Gabriel Gonzaga has a significant advantage. And that's just where I see the fight ending up, and I think that Gabe's going to take it once it goes there.
Fair enough. Let's move on. Next on the card, I don't even have to ask you what you think is going to happen in this one, but we're going to go ahead and talk quickly about it anyways. Gilbert Melendez, ranked number 2, versus Diego, now the Dream, Sanchez. Diego Sanchez, good fighter, very scrappy. Gilbert Melendez, a legitimate number 2 contender, even could be considered a number 1 contender after a controversial loss to Benson Henderson for the title. I feel like I don't even have to ask you, but go ahead and give me your input anyways, for the people that don't know.
I asked Gilbert when I talked to him recently, I said, what do you think about fighting a guy who's not even ranked but is as dangerous as Diego Sanchez is? What makes you take a fight like that? Gil just has that warrior spirit, man. He knows that Diego's going to come in and bring the fight, and, he knows that the people know Diego Sanchez is a dangerous opponent. Regardless, his win-loss record, he's going to bring the fight, and it's not going to be an easy one. That being said, the bookmakers have Gil almost a 5-1 favorite. I did see Gil in the gym looking like a savage. Oh, man, hardcore sparring, was spot on, was looking crisp, in shape. So get ready to see a great Gilbert Melendez. And you're right, I think Gilbert Melendez is the uncrowned UFC champion. I think the fight that people want to see is Gilbert Melendez versus Anthony Pettis, even though I know Nate Diaz has been vocal about wanting to fight Pettis too. And let me tell you why these guys want to fight Pettis. They want to fight Pettis because they know that Pettis will bring the fight. And that is the same reason why I think that Gilbert Melendez is choosing to fight or has accepted this fight with Diego Sanchez, who's a not ranked opponent. And I think that Gilbert's going to win over a lot of fans come that fight night on Saturday. And I think he wins. I think he gets the finish too. I think he gets the TKO in the third.
Yeah, I just don't see an area that Diego Sanchez is better than Gilbert, and unless he lands a lucky shot, I mean, it has to be lucky because Gilbert doesn't get knocked out, but unless he lands a lucky shot, I see Gilbert handling this fight wherever it goes. If I have to make a prediction, I'm going to go ahead and say that Gilbert Melendez probably is going to get, I'm going to say unanimous decision, but it's just going to be a pummeling. There's going to be a 10-8 round in there somewhere, but it's going to be unanimous. Diego's hard to take out.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty bad, though. I think Diego's going to be lumped up and cut
100%.
up pretty bad. I think if I was Gilbert, I'd go in there and try to make an example of him and show all of these guys that are below the top 5 that, whoa, I want nothing to do with Gilbert Melendez, especially right now. I need to get back in the gym. I think that's the message he needs to send in this fight. Because if you look at Diego Sanchez's win-loss record, especially recently, he got the win over Martin Kampmann, which I thought was crap. I thought Kampmann won the fight.
Agreed.
But he made a good fight. He made a good fighter like Kampmann have a tough time. When, in my opinion, I think Kampmann should have dominated the fight and won. The loss against Jake Ellenberger, which, in my opinion, was the better performance of his career or of his last couple fights, because he came on so strong in the last round. But that's not going to happen with Gilbert Melendez, because Gilbert Melendez does not gas out like that. Gilbert Melendez goes and goes and goes, and when the fight's over, he can go and go and go some more.
Right.
And we all know that Takanori Gomi beat Diego Sanchez in that fight too, and yet they still gave Diego the nod. I don't know how or why, but they did.
So when does Gilbert win this fight? What round?
In the third, I think he TKOs him.
Nice. Let's jump on to the co-main event. We've got Daniel Cormier versus Big Country Roy Nelson. I love this fight. Super into this. It's probably the fight I'm most interested in on this card, simply because Roy Nelson, when you give him a game opponent, becomes a game fighter. His loss to Stiopich was proven that if you give Roy Nelson somebody he doesn't want to fight, he's going to look like a fat fighter. But if you give him somebody who he wants to get in the cage with, don't worry about his physique. He's going to come out there and scrap hard. I think he wants to fight Daniel Cormier. He wants to prove he deserves to be ranked in the top 5 and even a chance at a title shot. On the other side, Daniel Cormier, who could probably cut down to 205 if he wanted to, is a legitimate number 2 contender, right up there for a title shot in heavyweight division. Daniel Cormier is outstanding in every facet. He's proven he can wrestle. He's proven he can knock people out. He's proven he can go the distance. I think after his win against Frank Mir, which was in his words, not his best performance, he's going to come out here and try to prove a point against Roy Nelson. With that being said, Roy Nelson has a puncher's chance, better than almost anybody else in the heavyweight division. If he catches Daniel Cormier, it's going to be interesting to see how Cormier reacts to getting one of those overhands that Roy Nelson is infamous for landing. If I have to make a pick, I'm going to give Cormier the victory by decision.
Yeah, I'll agree with that one. I'll roll in the same boat. He's going to outwork him, out-wrestle him, and I think he's going to be too fast for Roy. And if they do keep it on the feet, I don't even think they'll keep it on the feet. I think it's going to be a wrestling clinic.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I'll go with DC by decision.
Yeah. It's just hard for me to see Roy Nelson be able to land those shots, and if he's not going to land the overhand, he just doesn't have the wrestling pedigree to get into a dominant position on Daniel Cormier. So yeah, it's a decision victory for Daniel, which leads us to the third and final fight in a fantastic trilogy at the heavyweight division for the title: Cain Velasquez versus Junior Dos Santos. These guys have had an awesome first 2 fights, which makes it so easy to sell this third and final fight. They are legitimately the 2 best in the heavyweight division, and they're going to prove once and for all who is the top dog. With that being said, Junior Dos Santos is the best boxer in the heavyweight division. He's got the best hands easily, but Cain Velasquez, in my opinion, is the best heavyweight fighter out there. He's got an insane gas tank. He has tremendous wrestling. He has been able to take a shot outside of the one that landed by Junior Dos Santos and Junior's victory. Cain is not an easy guy to knock out. That Mexican pride tattoo across his chest is real. The dude's got pride, and he's able to go in there and prove himself fight in and fight out. And I think once again, unless Junior has been really working on his wrestling, and I mean really working, he's not going to be able to stop Cain Velasquez from getting in on him, getting him to the ground, and just smashing him from dominant positions. What do you think? Did I lose you? Did we just lose Lazy? I think we did. It's possible. So, with that being said, I believe my decision is final. Cain Velasquez will retain the title. He's going to be the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world and prove once again that he is the guy to beat. He will be the one at the top of the pyramid. The lion, as they would say, amongst the jungle. If Daniel Cormier wins against Roy Nelson, it'll be a really interesting setup for whether they put those two against each other, those two being Cain Velasquez and Daniel Cormier, because they are training partners and they are good friends. And I do believe that they have no intentions of fighting each other. It would be a great fight to make. It would sell tickets, but I see Daniel Cormier dropping down to 205 before fighting for the heavyweight title against Cain Velasquez. But those are our picks for UFC 166. That's this Saturday. I want to thank my co-host, LayzieTheSavage, for coming on today. A good buddy of mine. He does a lot of good work for the mixed martial arts community, and if you want to check him, he's on Twitter at LayzieTheSavage. That's on Twitter. He's at LayzieTheSavage. He's doing work for MiddleEasy.com, Fight Hub TV, and you can catch all of his work out there on YouTube and on many of the mixed martial arts websites. If you want to follow me, I'm at The Real Joe Sumo. Once again, that's at The Real Joe Sumo on Twitter. I'm on Facebook, but that's my personal Facebook, so if you find me, you find me. If you don't, you don't. We're doing this every week on Tuesdays, 12:30 here on Radio DePaul. This is The Cage.